Greetings to all! Welcome to Tahiti Monday. I am Shenanigans, and in this series of This Is How I Do It, I am going over Hearthstone's
Blackrock Mountain, a Hearthstone adventure!
This video will be about Baron Geddon in the Molten Core.
Baron Geddon is in our way. Handle him.
Baron Geddon has 50 health and 50 armor. It's a lot. For 0 mana, he deals 10 damage to you, but only if you have unspent mana crystals. I'd like to take this time to thank Blizzard for finally implementing something that involves unspent mana. Baron Geddon also has a card called Living Bomb, which is cast on one of your minions and deals 10 damage to all of your minions and you at the beginning of his next turn. To handle this card, we're going to need some silence, so we have Earthshock, Ironbeak Owl, and Hex. Again, these cards will be used on your minions, more so than they will be used on Baron Geddon's minions. We're then going to need some control cards on a basic curve, so we have Lightning Bolt, Crackle, Lightning Storm, Azure Drake, and Fire Elemental. And then we're going to throw in some minions for that basic curve as well, so we have Dust Devil and Zombie Chow, Flametongue Totem, Feral Spirit, Cult Master, Earth Elemental, and then 3 very large minions to help in the late game mana spending. I chose Stormwind Champion because it has 7 mana, and then I chose Alexstrasza and Ysera because they have 9 mana. I found that the odd numbers are a bit harder to spend than the even numbers. It's really straightforward. Let's get right into it.
Thrall versus Baron Geddon!
You will burn for Doomhammer.
For your starting hand, you do not need 2 drops, and Lightning Bolt does not count as a 1-drop. While Overload is very helpful to have in this deck, the Overload of Lightning Bolt will require you to have 2 1-drops, not just 1. It also forces you to play too many cards too early on. The reason you don't need 2 drops is because of your hero power and your Overload spells. Cards like Dust Devil, Feral Spirit, and Lightning Storm are great early plays, as you won't need to play any cards on the turns that follow. If you can save Lightning Storm for when it is really needed, do so, but don't be afraid to cast it on an empty board if it's the only way to avoid 10 damage. The mid-game is all about managing those living bombs and controlling Baron Geddon's board. Use Silence and Hex on any of your minions that get living bombed, and use your control cards on the minions you can't handle with your minions. The other thing you should try to do is plan ahead. If you only have one way of spending 7 mana on turn 7, don't use a spell with Overload the previous turn, or you'll be short for your available mana on the following turn. Similarly, if you don't have a way of spending mana for a turn to come, try using a card with Overload to avoid activating Baron Geddon's Ignite Mana hero power. You don't, however, have to have a perfect run. If you're effectively controlling Baron Geddon's board, you can actually survive 2 turns of taking 10 damage. In fact, if you have a perfect hand in the beginning of the game, except for a turn 1 play, it's acceptable to take damage on the first turn. If you have a turn later in the game that you can't spend perfectly, don't play any cards unless you have to. It's better to save those cards for future turns rather than just playing them. Baron Geddon deals the same damage to you whether you have 1 unspent mana or 10 unspent mana. The late game starts when your board begins to surpass Baron Geddon's. The important thing to do in the late game is to keep up your card draw. The more cards you have, the more ways you'll be able to manage your mana. Just don't fill the board with too many smaller minions, as Baron Geddon does have Hellfires. If your board does have a lot of small minions, I suggest playing a Cult Master and sacrificing them into a larger minion. It is better to use them for card draw than to deal a little extra damage to Baron Geddon, only to lose them to a Hellfire. With your larger minions, however, go to Baron Geddon's face as often as possible, as you do have to deal 100 damage or even more to win. If you've run out of silences, you can always sacrifice your living bombed minions into one of Baron Geddon's minions, as painful as that decision might actually be. And that is how I did it, Baron Geddon of the Molten Core. I hope this guide has been helpful in showing you the path to victory. Have fun making your own variations on this deck, or use different characters to make a similar, maybe even more powerful version than mine. Some other decks you could try are a Warlock control deck, using your life tap hero power to keep your hand full rather than using minions that draw you cards. Throw in some life gain to counteract the loss of life, and keep Baron Geddon's board clear. Throw down some powerhouses in the late game and take him out. Or try a basic Paladin Zoo deck, using draw cards like Lay on Hands, Divine Favor, and Jeeves to keep your hand full. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more of the Molten Core.
Yes. Yes.
And we have the Owl, and then I guess Lightning Storm to kill off the Magma Ranger. Pro play. Pro. You're jealous of my plays, I know it. Oh my god. 4 living bombs in a row. Yeah, and don't play a minion. Then I might actually be able to trade it out. Oh my god. Azure Drake saved me. 3, so I need 5 damage with Azure Drake. Come on, Azure Drake. That's 4. Crackle. Watch Crackle not work. Watch this. Watch this not work. Look how surprised I am. Oh my god. Fuck this game. So done. So done. We'll do it live!